My name is Lola Craven, and I'm 21 years old. If you had come across me a year ago, there wouldn't have been anything remarkable to notice. But one night in October 2023, my life changed in a way I could never have imagined. That night didn't just shift my path. It completely turned my world upside down. I found myself standing on the fine line between life and death. In that moment, I encountered something I never believed in and heard a message I couldn't ignore. Now, I know what I'm about to share might seem unbelievable. You may think, this is just a dramatic tale or an overhyped experience, but I want you to understand. I'm not saying this to gain attention or pity. This is a vital message, a wake-up call that isn't just for me, but for all of us. It's especially important for our generation and parents raising kids like me, kids who are trapped in a digital bubble. I was just another young woman glued to my phone, endlessly scrolling through social media. I measured my worth in likes and shares, living in a world I thought was limited to only what we can see, touch, or hear. Nothing beyond that seemed real to me. It all began on an otherwise ordinary Saturday night. After a long day, I was sprawled on the couch, my phone glued to my hand. Instagram, TikTok, Apple Music, YouTube, an endless cycle of apps and content sucked me in, short clips, beautiful images, catchy tunes. It was like one thing after another kept pulling me deeper into the digital world. I lost track of time completely. Everything around me seemed to fade into the background. The laughter, the bright moments flashing across the screen. They made me forget where I was and what I was doing. There's a hollow emptiness in my emotions, one I can't seem to escape. From the next room, my mother's voice called out, "Sienna, it's almost midnight. Go to bed and stop staring at that screen." Her reminder was nothing new. I'd heard it countless times before. But as usual, I brushed it off, replying with a soft yes, just to appease her, then kept scrolling on my phone. The glow of the screen was more enticing than any advice she could give. Just as I was about to switch to another video, everything suddenly went pitch black. A wave of dizziness washed over me, making me feel like I was being pulled under. At first, I thought maybe I'd been staring at my phone for too long. It's probably just in my head, I reassured myself. But within seconds, an excruciating pain surged through my skull, like hundreds of needles piercing me all at once. The same world around me blurred and began to fade. Everything turned into a thick, oppressive gray. Panic set in as I frantically tried to blink, hoping the light of the screen would return, but it didn't. My body felt foreign, unresponsive. The phone slipped from my fingers, and I felt as though I was falling into a bottomless void. My body crumpled to the floor, motionless. I don't know how long I stayed lost in that darkness, but when my eyes fluttered open, the sensation was surreal. I wasn't in pain or exhausted. Instead, I realized I was floating. Suspended midair, I glanced down and froze in shock. Below me, my body lay lifeless on the floor, limbs sprawled out like a discarded puppet. My phone, still illuminated, played a strange and haunting song from a TikTok video on repeat. A chilling fear gripped me as the realization sank in. I wanted to yell, to reach out and shake myself awake, but I was powerless. I couldn't control my body anymore. Was this real? The questions swirled in my mind as I tried to make sense of it all. It felt far too vivid to be a dream, yet too bizarre to be reality. Then, something unexpected occurred. Alongside the fear, a strange sense of relief washed over me. The constant headaches, the tension, the heaviness in my body, gone. I felt weightless, as if I had become a feather floating in an unknown space. Before I could make sense of it, a soft light filled the room. It wasn't harsh or overwhelming, but warm and soothing, much like the gentle rays of the morning sun. The light reached every dark corner, turning my small room into something almost magical. I couldn't tear my eyes away from it. And then, within that glow, a figure began to emerge. They didn't speak, yet I was overwhelmed by a powerful energy radiating from them. Warmth, love, and compassion poured from this presence, and I couldn't resist its pull. Deep down, I somehow knew this was Jesus. Not like the depictions I'd seen in paintings or stories, but unmistakably him. There was no need for grand gestures or elaborate details. Just his presence alone made me feel small, humbled. I couldn't look away, as if every part of my being was drawn to this light. Though he didn't utter a single word, I felt that he knew everything, every thought, every mistake, every burden I carried. Yet, in his presence, shame and fear melted away, replaced by an overwhelming desire to be understood, to change, to return to something greater. His gaze was unlike anything I had ever experienced, filled with love, but also holding a profound sadness that I couldn't completely comprehend. That gaze seemed to pierce through me, revealing my past, my present, and even the unresolved parts of me that I had tried to ignore. Slowly, he extended his hand. There was no urgency, no command in the gesture, just a gentle invitation. The moment I saw his hand, I knew I had to follow. Questions still swirled within me, but I reached out and placed my hand in his. As our hands touched, a radiant light surrounded me. There was no time to feel fear. The light wasn't harsh or painful, but full of warmth and life. I felt as though I was being carried, not forcibly, but as if a gentle current was guiding me. The familiar room disappeared in an instant. I could no longer see the floor, my phone, or even my own motionless body. As the light dimmed, I found myself in a strange new space. Around me were thousands of floating screens, each shimmering in the air at varying sizes. They seemed scattered without any particular pattern, twinkling like stars against the night sky. On each screen, images moved rapidly, playing out as though in fast forward. I focused on the closest screen, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. At first, all I saw were chaotic images, scenes of people laughing, crying, warring, and making peace, with individuals rushing after their fleeting dreams. But when I looked closer, I realized something that made my heart tighten. On a few screens, I saw myself. I see myself as a child, laughing and playing with my parents before they got divorced. I see myself on lonely days, crying quietly in the darkness when no one knows. I see my present self, lying on the floor, completely disconnected from reality because of the phone. Where is this? And what are these images? I want to ask. But before I can say a word, your gaze has already locked onto me. I don't need to say anything. I know you're waiting for me to figure it out myself. Then, he gestured toward a larger screen. On there, I saw millions of people, as if they were trapped in an endless whirlpool. Everyone held a glowing device in their hands, their eyes glued to it as if they were hypnotized. They don't talk, don't look at each other, and don't care about anything around them. As I continued to observe the hovering screens in this strange space, a feeling of fear and anxiety began to take over my mind. The screens not only display videos or regular images, they emit a faint dark light, as if they are Shi and Ying, the souls of each person who comes into contact with them. I looked closer and realized that this space is not just a world of images, but that it radiates an energy I can't put into words. It is a type of dark energy, like invisible threads lurking like electromagnetic waves, pulling people towards those screens. These threads may seem invisible, but they truly exist, and they are tightening around everyone. I see the images of many people on the screens. They seem mesmerized, unable to look away. A young woman in casual clothes holds her phone with her eyes glued to the screen. A young man is laughing loudly in front of the screen while playing a violent video game. An elderly man, lonely, scrolls through social media, seemingly searching for something but finding nothing. They all look as if they are stuck, unable to break free. On the floating screens, I noticed keywords appearing repeatedly, such as jealousy, comparison, addiction, and pride. They are not just ordinary words, they are like whispers of things that contain mental manipulation. I suddenly realized that technology is not just a tool, but a force that is manipulating the human mind every second, every minute. The feeling inside me seemed to explode when I heard Jesus whispering in my ear, "Do you see that? This is how they are stealing people's spiritual freedom." He pointed to the screens, and I seemed to hear a voice in my mind, clear and distinct. See a typical scene unfolding. Fake news spreads from one screen to another like an invisible wave. The woven images, the distorted rumors, all presented like a game, stimulating the mind and luring people into a labyrinth. Then, he pointed to the advertising symbols and the pop-ups that appeared suddenly. I realized that advertisements are not just visually appealing, but also contain hidden information. They evoke desire, tap into insecurity, and lead people to spend money on things they don't truly need. Jesus continued to explain, these ads, the information, the games, and the entertainment tools are not as harmless as we used to think. They entice people into a whirlpool of desire, laziness, and away from faith. He pointed to a nearby screen where a video game was playing. A young man is laughing loudly and shaking his hands to the rhythm of the game, completely focused, unaware of everything around him. Behind him, dark threads hung, tightening around him like a vice, constricting his mind. Online games, social media, dating, all of these are tools, but they are also manipulating our minds in ways that people do not realize. It is easy to lose control when everything is at our fingertips through screens. This is not just entertainment, this is a trap. His voice was still gentle, without a hint of anger, but I could feel the weight in every word he said. My mind is swirling with each image and piece of information. They are preparing the human mind for evil. They are not yet the mark of the beast, but they will lead people closer to dependence, to a loss of spiritual freedom. Words like jealousy, comparison, and pride hovered on the screen like a warning. They are not just ordinary words. They are tools, the keys that open the door, leading people away from humanity and faith. Jesus continued, this world is distracting people's minds from what truly matters: love, trust, and genuine connection with one another. Technology is a gift, but it is also a double-edged sword. What matters is how we use it. When I listen to your words, my heart feels like it's stopping. These words are not just common sayings, but rather a sacred message, full of power and truth. I can sense the worry in your voice, but it is also filled with love and compassion. The enemy is using technology to destroy your generation. Technology is not bad, but people have allowed it to control them. You need to warn them, he said, his eyes sparkling with a gentle and profound light. These words resonate in my mind like a warning bell. I see the power hidden behind each screen, each piece of information, each image. This is not a coincidence. It is a strategy, a plan that has been established for a long time, aimed at eroding people's spiritual freedom and faith. Social media is not entirely bad, he said with hopeful eyes. If humans know how to use it correctly, it can become a wonderful tool for connecting, sharing stories of faith, and spreading good things. He raised his hand, and I saw a soft light flicker in the surrounding space. An image appears in my mind, a group of young people sharing their stories about love, trust, and hope through social media. They use this tool not to distance themselves from their life goals, but to inspire each other and to support one another in faith. But if abused, Jesus continued, his voice slow and powerful, social media will turn into a trap that kills the soul. I suddenly found myself as if I were witnessing that scene right before my eyes. Young people, engrossed in scrolling through social media, sometimes comparing themselves to others through glamorous, sparkly images that are completely fake. Joyful faces, perfect photos, but inside them, there is sadness, fear, and a sense of not being good enough. The enemy doesn't need to appear directly, he continued, his gaze seeming to penetrate my mind. The enemy indirectly influences people's minds through technology, sowing seeds of fear, insecurity, and jealousy to control them. These words are like sharp knives cutting through the hazy fog in my mind. I recall the news segments, the videos, and the images on the screen that made my mind waver. Feeling pressured, anxious, and sometimes uneasy when comparing my life to what I saw online, I realize, really, that technology is not bad. It's the way people misuse it. Human beings, in their ignorance, have allowed themselves to be imprisoned by the very tool that was supposed to set them free and connect them. This is what the enemy wants, something it relentlessly seeks to achieve. While I was still lost in thought about your warning, the space around me suddenly changed. The gentle light of Jesus, like a movement, began to unfold a scene before my eyes. I see myself standing in a living room of a family. The scene looks ordinary, but the atmosphere in the room is heavy, like a wave of sadness. The family members sat together, but each person was glued to their own screen. On the other side of the room, I saw a child sitting on the floor, holding a game controller. The light from the screen shone onto its face, making the face look bright and blank. The room is like an invisible prison, and everyone is losing themselves in the virtual world of screens. A feeling of pain and sorrow welled up in my heart as I watched this scene. This scene is not just one family. It's an image of millions of other families around the world, where technology has disrupted closeness and emotional connections. The enemy, like hiding in the shadows, lurks outside this scene. I saw a dark shadow lurking, flickering evilly and defiantly. He stood there, holding an invisible string, and smiled wickedly as he watched these families lose their connection and love for each other. You see, the voice of Jesus echoes in my ears, soft yet full of weight. The enemy is attacking the family, breaking relationships and bonds through technology. This is the place they want to destroy first. He pointed toward the screens and the darkness that lurked around. Family is the basic foundation of every society. If families lose love, care, and connection, the world will collapse. I realized that the issue is not only the abuse of technology, but also the distance and the loss of love among family members. By focusing too much on the screen, they have unintentionally led themselves and their children to be lost in solitude, in indifference towards one another. Jesus continued, "Help them awaken, guide them back to love and genuine connection." You, however, need to show them that happiness does not come from screens, but from true caring, listening, and sharing. Your voice emphasizes an undeniable truth. He not only pointed out the mistakes of technology and humanity, but also gave me a mission. You must bring this message to them so they can recognize and change. As I looked back at the scene, the darkness around me gradually grew thicker. The enemy still stands there, laughing loudly, and continues to set traps. However, I also feel a great sense of hope rising within me. If I follow the teachings of Jesus, and if I dare to bring this message to everyone, then perhaps the darkness will be banished. Jesus waved his hand, and in the blink of an eye, the scenery had changed. This time, I found myself in a ceremony at the church. The room was filled with gentle light and a sacred atmosphere, but my mind was filled with sorrow as I looked around. Most of the congregation is sitting in the pews, but their gazes are not directed at the pastor or the sermon. Instead, I see them engrossed in their phones. The lesson is being conveyed, but it's obscured by the distractions of small screens. A sudden pang of sorrow welled up in my heart. Jesus once spoke about the state of distraction in this day and age, and now I can feel it right here, in this very ceremony. The church, which is considered a sacred house where all believers gather to worship and listen to the Word of God, is now being invaded by screens and technological devices. Not only limited to scrolling through social media and texting, I see many people using social media as a tool to criticize each other. Harsh comments, judgments, and divisions silently spread through posts and status updates. Instead of showing love and unity and faith, they are turning social media into a place to sow discord and lose peace. A specific scene appears in my mind. A group of people is gathering in a small room inside the church. They are exchanging information and sharing posts from social media. But instead of talking about uplifting and encouraging each other, they are sharing negative news and criticisms, directed at others. Their words are sharp as knives, cutting away any warmth and camaraderie. I realize that this is not just carelessness, but a sign of being manipulated by technology. Pulling people's minds away from peace and love in God, the feeling of sadness and disappointment overwhelmed me in that moment. I can't help but think about Jesus and the sadness in his eyes when he sees his people lost in technology and far away from true worship. This distraction not only causes the loss of the opportunity to hear his words, but also leads to the loss of unity and love within the community of believers. While I was still lost in those thoughts, the gentle and warm voice of Jesus echoed in my heart. My house has become a place of distraction, but it's not too late. Remind them that technology can be a tool to preach the gospel, but don't let it take away their focus on me. Your voice is gentle, yet full of power and hope. I looked up and saw him standing there beside me, his light shining all around the room. His gaze is full of love, but also full of seriousness. You see, technology is not mistaken in its nature. People have abused it and allowed it to take away the connection with me and with each other. But we do not blame them. We are here to call them back, to help them see the light, and to use technology as a tool for good purposes. These words are like a ray of light in the darkness. I understand that change does not come from rejecting technology, but from aligning minds and hearts toward the right purpose. Technology can help connect, spread the gospel, learn, and share. Love if we know how to use it properly. But this is an important thing. We must not let it take over our minds and overshadow our beliefs. Technology can be a miracle, but it can also be a dangerous trap if you're not careful. The Word of God cannot be heard and lived in our hearts if we are too focused on screens and all that background noise. Jesus looked at me and said, with eyes full of compassion, "Remind them that focusing on me and my words is the most important thing. If you do this with love and patience, you will see miracles happen in their souls. When He speaks, my mind is filled with a new faith. I know this is my mission, not to criticize or condemn, but to call upon everyone to awaken, to use technology as a tool for proclaiming the gospel, to glorify God, and to connect the community in true love. In a space full of light and hope, I feel that I have been entrusted with a noble mission. Technology is not the enemy. It can be a friend if we learn to use it correctly and turn to God with a clean and humble heart. With new faith and hope, I am ready to carry out my mission." When I opened my eyes and the feeling returned to my body, everything around me seemed to slow down a little, as if I had just passed through another realm and was now returning to reality. I sat up and looked around my room, feeling really strange. My eyes are glued to the glowing laptop screen. The phone nearby seems to be waiting for my attention, but my heart is filled with impulses and emotions. The words of Jesus resonate in my mind like an unending melody. My house has become a place of distraction, but it's not too late. Remind them that technology can be a tool for preaching the gospel, but don't let it take away their focus on me. These phrases keep echoing in my mind like an unforgettable call. I feel as if I can't go on living the way I used to. There is something urging, a mission, a great task that needs to be done. I can't keep this story inside me. You can't just keep God's experiences and messages a secret. What I see, what I hear, and what I feel are very important messages, especially for young people. The generation growing up in a world full of technology, distractions, and temptations. I know I have to do something. This feeling is so strong that I can't sit still. I looked out the window and saw the sunlight streaming in, bringing with it a new hope. A great belief is gradually growing in my heart. I need to go outside, meet people, and talk about the things God has shown me, but it is not just an ordinary anecdote, but a wake-up call, a call to open our eyes and embrace the truth. This is where my journey began. Questions swirled in my mind. Where do I start? Who should I approach first? Am I even capable? Yet amidst the uncertainty, I felt a calmness wash over me as I remembered the Lord's words. I knew I had to remind myself and others that focusing on Him and His teachings is what matters most. While I may not be the strongest or the most capable, I have God by my side. Through His guidance, I can achieve something meaningful. A powerful determination began to build within me, a fire that overpowered fear and doubt. I realized this. Mission wasn't just for me, it was for all the souls lost in the shadows, those consumed by the distractions of technology, the whispers of screens, and the deceptive pull of the enemy. Start here, I told myself. Every step, every word would serve as a bridge to bring others closer to God. It would carry a message of hope and a heartfelt warning. I knew this path would be challenging, but I also knew it was the right one. Backing down was not an option. The world outside is filled with temptations and distractions, and technology continues to invade hearts and minds. Yet, with God's guidance and my willingness to follow His call, I felt ready to step into this mission. Jesus had shown me the way, and it was time to follow that path. sharing His word and spreading hope so others could awaken to the light. When I accepted this mission from Jesus, I knew I needed to reach as many people as possible. Technology, which has transformed the way we connect and communicate, became the very tool I decided to use. YouTube came to mind, a platform where millions of young people and adults search for information, entertainment, and connection. I realized this could be the perfect place to share my message. With faith in God and a clear sense of purpose, I began building a YouTube channel. In the beginning, everything was simple. I had no prior experience creating videos or technical expertise. Still, I trusted that God would guide me through every step. I reminded myself of the purpose, to use technology as a medium to share love, faith, and hope. Every time I uploaded a video, I remembered the mission Jesus had given me. I vowed to keep sharing, keep encouraging, and keep hoping. My prayer was that this message would spark something in others, a small flame in their hearts, guiding them toward the light. As I reflect on this journey, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude for Jesus' mercy and love. I'm far from perfect and have made countless mistakes in my life, yet God, in His boundless compassion, gave me the chance to change and walk a new path, a path filled with purpose and hope. My story is not just a cautionary tale about the pitfalls of technology and social media. It's also a story of redemption and the hope that comes through God's grace. If someone like me, who has stumbled and been lost, can find a way back with His help, then anyone can. Redemption is available to all who open their hearts to Him. Too often, we allow technology and modern conveniences to consume our time and attention. In doing so, we neglect what truly matters: connecting with family, loved ones, and most importantly, with God. Technology can be an amazing tool, but when misused, it can lead us astray, pulling us into dark and empty places. I urge you now to stand up, not only for yourself, but for the younger generation and all who are being drawn into the web of screens, false narratives, and empty desires. Together, let's reclaim our focus and return to what truly matters. Be a guide, a role model, a light in the darkness. Use technology as a tool to glorify God, to spread love and faith, instead of letting it lead us away from the true purpose of life. You might be feeling weak, defeated, or doubtful, but don't let that stop you. Everything is possible with God, who gives strength. Together, we can change the world. A post, a video, a story, a message, every small action, when taken with faith and love, can create miracles. I believe that if each of us takes the time to reflect and choose the right path, light will triumph over darkness, and we will see the miracles in our lives. Let's work together to make technology a tool for connecting, learning, and spreading the gospel. Don't let it be an invisible string, pulling us away from our purpose. Instead, let it be a bridge, bringing us closer to God's love and mercy. Finally, I want to send you this message. You are not alone. Jesus is by your side. Trust in Him and walk in hope. Together, we will be a tiny flame in this world, illuminating every dark corner and guiding those who are lost to the shores of love and redemption. The light of hope is not just a message, but an action, starting with you and me. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all of you who have taken the time to follow my story and message up to this point. I am truly grateful that you listened and accompanied me on this journey. I thank Jesus because He has given me the opportunity to change and share my story. If you feel that this message touches your heart, please don't hesitate to share this video with your friends and loved ones. Who knows, our story might save someone from the traps and bring them back to the light and hope. Lord Jesus, I open my heart and invite you to enter my life. Please forgive all my mistakes, guide me to walk in your light, and give me a new life, full of hope. Amen. Follow my channel to continue exploring meaningful stories and messages together. Like and subscribe to not miss out on the next videos.